For 3 years of marriage, I shit my guts out over 100 times. Every single time was right after eating dinner at my in-laws' house. At first I thought I just had a weak digestive system. Later, I realized that if I ate at my own parents' place or cooked for myself, I was perfectly fine. I told my husband about this pattern. He sneered, "What the fuck is that supposed to mean? You think my mom is poisoning you?" I said no. But deep down I knew something was wrong. That afternoon my bowels exploded again. It was our company's quarterly review. Over 30 people were crammed into the conference room. My boss was going over Q1 sales metrics, when my stomach suddenly clenched. The pain was agonizing. Like someone was twisting my intestines into a knot. I lasted exactly 5 minutes before I couldn't hold it. I stood up, punched over and bolted. My boss stopped mid-sentence and stared. The whole fucking department stared. I sat on the toilet for 20 miserable minutes. When I finally crawled out, my face was ash white. Back in the conference room, my boss looked pissed. After the meeting, he called me into his office. "Sarah, how many times have you called out or left early this quarter?" I stared at the 7. "All stomach issues?" "Yes." "Decide, go to a doctor and get this sorted out. Work is work, but your health comes first." I nodded, saying nothing. I had been to the doctor more than 10 fucking times. Endoscopies, colonoscopies, ultrasounds, blood tests. The doctor said my gastrointestinal tract was flawless. Perfectly healthy. But I kept shitting my brains out. 3 years, over 100 times, I thought of every possibility. Food allergies, tested stress. But it only happened when I ate at my mother-in-law's house. I told my husband Brad about this trend. He was mid-game, not even looking up. "What are you trying to say?" "I think maybe it's something in the food your mom cooks." He paused the game and snapped his head toward me. His eyes were cold. "Sarah, are you listening to your own bullshit? My mom slaves over a hot stove, making 4 different dishes, specifically cooking bland shit just for you. Do you know how exhausting that is for her?" "I know, but..." "But what? You eat her food for free and then accuse her of hurting you?" "I'm not accusing. I'm just saying there's a possibility." "What possibility?" "That my mother is spiking your damn food." I shut my mouth. He unpaused his game and ignored me. The rest of the night, we slept in the same bed, backs turned to each, listening to him snore. I remembered all those nights spent agonizing on the toilet. The first time was 3 days after our wedding. Brenda made a massive feast to welcome me. That night, my ass exploded. Brad said it was just my stomach adjusting to new, rich food. The second time was a week later. Brenda's cooking again. More explosive diarrhea. Brad told me my gut was just trash. Third time, fourth time, fifth time. Every time after a meal at their place. Every time I brought it up, Brad called me a paranoid psycho. "Why the hell would my mom want to hurt you? She wants nothing but the best for us." "Does she?" I thought about the way Brenda looked at me. Smiling. Sweet, like a textbook Midwestern mom. But sometimes the second she turned around, I'd catch a different look in her eye. Hard to describe. Cold. Bitchy. Like she was looking at a parasite. I told myself I was tripping. Brenda was always so nice to me. She cooked a huge spread every time. She packed Tupperware for us. She gave me generous gift cards for Christmas. How could she be hurting me? But the diarrhea. How the fuck do you explain that? I decided to do something without telling a single soul. I bought a hidden spy camera and stuck it right in my sweet mother-in-law's kitchen. I needed an answer. Even if the answer was that I was a crazy bitch making shit up. Even if Brad called me a psycho. I had to know. This weekend, we went over to his parents for Sunday dinner. Brenda was thrilled. She went to the farmer's market early and had been bustling around all day. The house smelled like heaven. "Sarah, sweetie. You're here." Brenda poked her head out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a grease-stained apron. "Have a seat. It's almost ready." I forced a smile. Brad went into the garage to drink beer with his dad, Gary. I was alone in the living room. I stared at the half-open kitchen door, watching Brenda's busy silhouette. She was fast, chopping, frying, plating. A real pro. Soon the dining table was covered in pot roast, potatoes, and beans. A small bowl of grilled lemon shrimp was placed directly in front of my seat. "Sarah loves shrimp, so I got these just for you." Brenda smiled warmly. "I know your tummy has been sensitive, so I made sure there's no spice. Very mild." "Thanks, Mom." I took a bite of the shrimp. Brenda watched me chew. Her eyes crinkled. A sweet smile on her face. "Is it good?" "It's great. Eat up, honey." I took another bite. The whole family started eating. Gary and Brad were talking about the NFL draft, while Brenda kept pushing food onto my plate. Sarah, have some more potatoes. They're good for your stomach. Sarah, try the green beans. Lots of fiber. I nodded and ate. But in my head I was starting a countdown. Usually 2 hours after the meal, my stomach would start dropping. Sure enough, on the drive back, the sharp cramps hit. Brad was driving. I clutched my stomach, the color draining from my face. What now? He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, annoyed. My stomach hurts. Rolled his eyes and didn't say a word. The second we pulled into our driveway, I sprinted to the bathroom. I was stuck on the toilet for half an hour, sweating through my shirt. When I dragged myself out, Brad was watching Netflix. I slumped onto the sofa, drained. He looked over. Maybe you should go to the GI doctor again. I did. They said I'm fine. Then it's all in your fucking head. I didn't respond. All in my head. He said that every single time. Like I was some hysterical freak. Like I was purposefully trying to make his mom look bad. I wasn't. I just wanted to know why. Why the fuck did I only shit liquid after eating her food? Why was I fine everywhere else? Why couldn't the doctors find a single goddamn thing wrong with me? Monday morning, I called in sick. I drove to an electronics store. I bought a pinhole camera. It was tiny, easily disguised. It hooked up to an app on my phone. Live streaming in 1080p. I hid it in my purse. Next time we went over, that camera was going into Brenda's kitchen. Brad had no clue. If he knew, he would lose his shit. He'd call me a psycho. He'd say I was disrespecting his family. I didn't give a fuck anymore. 3 years of diarrhea. I'd had enough. I wanted the fucking truth. Next weekend, back at the in-laws, I faked needing to use the restroom and slipped into the kitchen instead. Brenda was in the living room with Gary. The kitchen was empty. I scanned the room quickly. Above the range hood, right in the corner. Dark. Greasy, completely unnoticeable. I stepped onto a stool and slapped the magnetic camera up there. The lens pointed straight down at the stove. I adjusted my shirt and walked out casually. Everything okay, Sarah? Brenda called out from the recliner. Yeah, just washing my hands. Mom. Stay out of the kitchen, sweetie. It's a mess right now. I smiled sweetly. We'll do after dinner. We left in the passenger seat. I secretly opened the app. The feed was crystal clear. I could see the stove, the prep area, and part of the fridge. I locked my phone. My heart hammering. Now all I had to do was wait for the next time Brenda cooked. For 14 agonizing days, nothing happened. We didn't go to Brenda and Gary's house. I went to work, survived my boss's suspicious glares, and checked the app on my phone about 40 times a day. Usually, the kitchen was dark. Sometimes I'd catch Gary grabbing a midnight beer in his boxers, or Brenda wiping down perfectly clean granite countertops. Watching her domestic routine felt dirty, like I was the creep. I started to doubt myself again. Maybe Brad was right. Maybe my gut was just trash. Maybe I was looking for a villain because I couldn't accept my own biological failures. Then came the first Sunday of the month. Brad's promotion dinner. He'd finally made senior account manager, a title bump that came with a meager pay raise and an ego boost he desperately needed. Brenda insisted on going all out. My boy deserves a feast, she texted our group chat, capping it off with 5 red heart emojis. Sarah, I'll make sure to prep something extra gentle for your tummy. See you at 5. I read the text sitting on the edge of our bed. Brad walked out of the bathroom, drying his hair. Don't pull a face, he said, catching my expression. It's my night. Just eat a little bit, smile, and for the love of God, take an Imodium before we go. I shouldn't have to take medication to eat dinner with your parents, Brad. He threw the damp towel onto my pillow. Here we go again. Can we just have one fucking night where you don't make my mother's cooking about your weird medical anxiety? Just one? Sure, I said quietly. I picked up his wet towel and tossed it into the hamper. One night. We pulled into their driveway at exactly 5 p.m. The smell of roasted garlic and rendered fat hit me the second Gary opened the front door. Brad and his dad immediately gravitated toward the patio to smoke cigars and drink scotch. I walked into the living room, hovering near the hallway. Sarah. In here, sweetie. Brenda's voice drifted from the kitchen. Just setting my purse down, Mom. I called back. I slipped into the guest bathroom, locked the door, and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking. I tapped the app icon. The screen buffered for 3 agonizing seconds, spinning a little gray circle before snapping into a crystal clear 1080p feed of the kitchen stove. Brenda was standing exactly where she had been in my head. A massive pork roast was resting on a cutting board. 4 pots simmered on the stove. And there, sitting on the marble island, were two distinct plates of food. One was a massive portion of sliced pork, au gratin potatoes, and asparagus smothered in butter. The other was a smaller, pathetic-looking plate. Plain mashed potatoes. Dry roasted chicken breast. Steamed carrots. My plate. I held my breath, watching the tiny screen. Brenda wiped her hands on her apron. She checked the window looking out toward the patio where Brad and Gary were laughing. Then, she walked over to her purse, which was slung over one of the bar stools. She unzipped a side pocket and pulled something out. My heart slammed against my ribs. It was a small, dark amber glass bottle with a black dropper top. It looked like an essential oil bottle. The sweet, folksy aura of the Midwestern mother instantly vanished from her face. Her posture straightened. Her eyes went dead, focused, and utterly cold. She unscrewed the cap, pulled the glass pipette out, and squeezed. 1, 2, 3. She dropped 3 heavy beads of a clear, thick liquid directly onto my steamed chicken breast. Then she squeezed the dropper again. 4, 5, 6. She mixed it into the gravy pooling in my plain mashed potatoes. She didn't stop there. She took a spoon and carefully tossed the chicken and potatoes so the liquid absorbed completely into the food. The entire time, she was humming. I couldn't hear it through the feed, but I could see her lips moving to a rhythmic, upbeat tune. When she was satisfied, she screwed the cap back on, wiped the bottle with a paper towel, and dropped it back into her purse. I sat on the closed toilet lid. The bathroom walls felt like they were closing in. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't sick. I was being systematically, intentionally poisoned by a woman who hugged me and bought me bath bombs for Christmas. Tears prickled my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were hot, venomous tears of pure, unfiltered rage. 3 years. 3 years of endoscopies, of crying on the bathroom floor, of humiliating myself at work, of Brad calling me a psycho. I hit the record button on the app, saving the last 5 minutes to my camera roll. Then I stood up, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. I was pale, but my eyes were dark and wide. Don't blow it, I told myself. If you scream now, she'll deny it. Brad will defend her. They'll say it was a dietary supplement. I needed the bottle. And I needed revenge. I walked out of the bathroom and into the kitchen. Brenda looked up, a bright, plastic smile snapping onto her face instantly. There she is, she chirped. I made your special plate, sweetie. I know your tummy has been giving you grief. Plain chicken and mash. No dairy, no spices. You are an angel, Brenda, I said. My voice didn't shake. I don't know what I'd do without you. She beamed. Go tell the boys it's time to eat. We sat around the dining table. Gary poured wine. Brad was holding court, talking loudly about his new office and his expense account. Brenda sat across from me, her eyes darting to my plate with an anticipation she was struggling to hide. I picked up my fork. I pushed the chicken around in the poisoned gravy. Eat up, Sarah, Brenda coaxed gently. It'll get cold. I will, I smiled. Actually, Brad, can you pass the salt? Brad sighed, annoyed at the interruption to his monologue. There's salt right in front of you. Oh, right. I reached over the table, deliberately catching the sleeve of my blouse on Brad's full glass of red wine. I pulled hard. The heavy crystal glass tipped, spilling a tsunami of dark red Cabernet straight into Brad's lap and all over his massive plate of pork and potatoes. Jesus Christ! Brad yelled, jumping up. The chair scraped violently against the hardwood floor. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I gasped, grabbing my napkin and dabbing frantically at the table. Sarah, what the fuck? Brad roared, looking down at his ruined khakis. Are you blind? Language, Bradley, Brenda snapped, standing up quickly. It's fine, it's fine. Come to the laundry room, let's get some club soda on that before it sets. Gary stood up to help. The 3 of them rushed toward the hallway. The dining room was empty. I had exactly 10 seconds. I grabbed my poisoned plate of plain chicken and mash. I grabbed Brad's ruined, wine-soaked plate of pork. I didn't switch them. I grabbed my large purse from the floor. I dumped my entire plate of poisoned food into a large Ziploc bag I had tucked inside my bag earlier. I zipped it shut, sealing the stench inside the leather tote. Then, I looked at Brad's wine-soaked plate. I scooped all of it into the garbage can under the table, burying it beneath a pile of paper towels. When they came back 5 minutes later, Brad was wearing an old pair of Gary's sweatpants, looking furious. Well, my dinner is ruined, he grumbled, looking at the empty spot where his plate had been. I threw it away, I said meekly. It was completely soaked in wine. I'm so sorry, honey. Here. I pushed my empty plate, wiped clean of the poisoned food, to the center of the table. You can have the rest of my chicken. I already ate most of it while you were cleaning up. I'm actually getting quite full. Brenda froze. Her eyes locked onto the empty porcelain plate in front of me. You ate it, she asked. Her voice was an octave higher than usual. Yes, I lied, patting my stomach. It was delicious, Mom. Thank you. Brad, do you want me to make you a sandwich? Mom can just plate me some more pork, Brad snapped, sitting down heavily. Don't touch anything else, Sarah. Brenda walked back to the kitchen, moving a little slower this time. She plated Brad more pork. The rest of the dinner went on. Brad ate like a king. I sipped my water. Brenda kept stealing sideways glances at me, waiting for the ticking time bomb to go off. It never did. 2 hours later, we were in the car driving home. Brad was still in a foul mood about his pants. He ranted about my clumsiness for 10 minutes before falling silent. We merged onto the I-95 interstate. It was a 40-minute drive to our house, surrounded by nothing but dark woods and a few scattered exits. 10 minutes into the drive, Brad suddenly shifted in his seat. He stopped talking mid-sentence. You okay? I asked, looking out the window. He swallowed hard. Yeah. Just ate too much pork, I think. 5 minutes later, the color began to drain from his face. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. A sheen of sweat broke out on his forehead. Brad? Don't, he grunted through clenched teeth. Don't talk to me. He unbuckled his seatbelt, shifting his weight frantically to one cheek. A loud, wet gurgling noise erupted from his abdomen. It sounded like an old radiator dying. Do you need me to drive? I asked, my voice laced with mock concern. Internally, a cold, dark euphoria was spreading through my chest. I need a bathroom, he gasped. His foot pressed harder on the gas, pushing the car to 85 miles an hour. The next exit is 12 miles away, honey, I said softly. Fuck. Fuck. Brad screamed, hitting the steering wheel. His face was gray. He was panting, shallow little breaths, his eyes wide with absolute terror. The same terror I had felt in the conference room. The same terror I felt every Sunday for 3 years. Just hold it in, I said. It's probably just in your head. He whipped his head to look at me, a look of pure hatred in his eyes, but a sudden, violent cramp doubled him over the steering wheel. The car swerved onto the rumble strip. Take the wheel, he screamed. He slammed on the brakes. The car skidded onto the gravel shoulder of the dark highway, throwing gravel and dust into the night air. Before the car even fully stopped, Brad threw the door open. He scrambled out, tripping over his dad's oversized sweatpants, and ran toward the dark tree line. He didn't make it to the trees. I sat in the air-conditioned car, listening to the agonizing, explosive sounds of my husband losing every ounce of his dignity in a ditch off the interstate. He was out there for 20 minutes. He was sobbing. Actually sobbing. When he finally crawled back to the car, he looked like a corpse. He smelled like a slaughterhouse. He threw his soiled sweatpants into the woods and sat on a plastic grocery bag in his boxers, shivering violently. Must be your gut, I said calmly, looking at my phone. Maybe it's just adjusting to rich food. Shut up, he whispered, resting his head against the steering wheel, crying quietly. Drive. I drove us home in silence. The next morning, I called in sick. Brad was still asleep, moaning occasionally, clutching his ruined stomach. I took the Ziploc bag of food from my purse, packed it in ice, and drove to a private toxicology and chemical testing lab I had found 2 towns over. I paid $800 out of pocket for an expedited mass spectrometry analysis. Then, I drove to the electronics store. I didn't buy another camera. I bought a high-quality voice recorder. 3 days later, the lab emailed me the results. I sat at my kitchen island with a cup of coffee and read the PDF. The plain chicken and gravy contained an exponentially high dose of sodium picosulfate and bisacodyl, suspended in a mineral oil base. I Googled it. It was a compounding pharmacy formula, typically used as an extreme bowel purgative for large livestock, or in lower doses, to clear human bowels before major gastrointestinal surgery. The report noted that the concentration I submitted was hazardous. Taken frequently, it causes severe dehydration, malabsorption of nutrients, mucosal damage in the colon, and eventually, cardiac issues due to potassium depletion. She wasn't just giving me the runs. She was slowly destroying my internal organs. A cold, terrifying calm washed over me. I printed out 3 copies of the lab report. I put the video of Brenda dosing my food onto a USB drive. I put everything into a manila folder. I called a divorce attorney. Then, I called the police. Not the local beat cops. I called a detective in the precinct where Brenda lived. I explained the situation calmly. I told him I had video evidence, lab results, and 3 years of medical records proving sudden, unexplained gastrointestinal trauma. Detective Miller was skeptical at first. Ma'am, mother-in-law disputes aren't really. I have video of her dropping equine laxatives into my food, and lab results confirming a hazardous dose, I interrupted. It's a felony. Poisoning food or drink. Section 347 of the Penal Code. He paused. Bring it in. I spent 3 hours at the precinct. Detective Miller watched the video on his monitor. He read the lab report. Then he looked at my medical records, noting the dozens of expensive, agonizing procedures I'd undergone. The skepticism vanished from his face, replaced by a grim, professional disgust. This is incredibly calculated, Miller said, leaning back in his chair. We can arrest her, but I need to ask you, does your husband know? I don't know, I said truthfully. But I'm going to find out tonight. I set the stage perfectly. I cooked dinner. Real food. A beautiful roasted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables. Brad came home from work looking exhausted. His stomach had finally settled, but his ego was still bruised from his roadside humiliation. He sat down at the table and started eating without thanking me. How's your stomach? I asked, pouring myself a glass of wine. Fine, he muttered. Must have been a bug. Brad, I need to show you something. I opened my laptop and slid it across the table. I hit play. Brad chewed his chicken, looking at the screen with bored annoyance. He saw his mother's kitchen. He saw her walk over to her purse. He saw her pull out the dropper. He stopped chewing. He watched as his sweet, Midwestern mother methodically poisoned my dinner, a dead-eyed look of concentration on her face. The video ended. The kitchen was dead silent. What is this? He whispered, staring at the black screen. It's a hidden camera I put in your mother's kitchen, I said, my voice steady. Because I knew. I knew for years she was doing something to me, and you called me a psycho. You called me a hysterical bitch. Brad's face contorted. Denial, thick and desperate, flooded his features. This is fake. You set this up. Or it's just gravy browning. It's soy sauce. I slid the toxicology report across the table. It's livestock-grade purgative, Brad. She's been dosing me for 3 years. Every single time we ate there. She destroyed my colon. She jeopardized my job. And you let her. I didn't know, he yelled, slamming his hands on the table. I didn't fucking know, Sarah. Why would she do this? Because she hates me, I said coldly. And because she loves having you all to herself. And guess what? She poisoned you on Sunday. Brad froze. I didn't eat my food, Brad, I smiled, leaning forward. After you spilled your wine, I threw your ruined food away, and I pushed my plate over to you. The one she spiked. That's why you shit yourself on the side of I-95. His jaw dropped. He looked sick. The realization of what he had endured, what I had endured over 100 times, finally crashed into him. She, my mom. He put his head in his hands. I went to the police today, Brad, I said. His head snapped up. Panic replaced his shock. What? No, Sarah, you can't do that. She's my mother. We'll stop going over there. We'll confront her. You can't involve the cops. There it was. Even now, even after knowing she had poisoned his wife and caused him to publicly humiliate himself, his first instinct was to protect her. To protect his comfort. To hide the mess. It's already done, I said, standing up. I picked up the manila folder sitting on the counter and dropped it into his lap. And so are we. Those are divorce papers. My lawyer will be in touch. Sarah, please. Brad stood up, reaching for me. You can't just leave. We can fix this. She needs psychiatric help, not jail. Don't touch me, I snapped, stepping back. My eyes were cold. You gaslit me for 3 years, Brad. You watched me cry in agony, you watched me bleed money on medical bills, and you called me crazy. You're just as toxic as her. You deserve each other. I had already packed my car. I turned my back on him, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. The arrest happened the next morning. I wasn't there to see it, but Detective Miller called me with the details. They showed up at Gary and Brenda's house at 8 a.m. Brenda answered the door in her bathrobe, smiling warmly. When they told her she was under arrest for felony poisoning and aggravated battery, the sweet facade shattered. She screamed. She fought them. She threw a ceramic planter at a female officer. They had to put her in handcuffs on her own manicured front lawn in front of the entire neighborhood. Gary stood in the doorway, utterly bewildered, in his pajamas. They searched the house with a warrant. They found the amber bottle hidden in the back of a medicine cabinet. They also found a digital trail on Gary's iPad. Brenda had been ordering the chemical from an obscure veterinary supply website under a fake name for 3 years. The trial was a local media circus. Hospitality toxicity, local MOM poisoned daughter-in-law for years, read the local paper's headline. Brenda's defense attorney tried to spin it as a tragic case of a mother suffering from a misplaced caregiving complex, claiming she just wanted to cleanse my system. It was bullshit, and the jury knew it. When the prosecution played the video of her humming while she dosed my food, a collective gasp echoed through the courtroom. Brenda sat at the defense table, looking small, frail, and furious. She refused to look at me. Brad testified. He looked awful. He had lost weight, and his hair was thinning. Under oath, he admitted to his roadside accident, admitting that his mother's cleansing formula had caused him excruciating agony. He cried on the stand. It didn't make me feel sorry for him. It just looked pathetic. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Brenda to 7 years in a state penitentiary. As the bailiff led her away, she finally locked eyes with me from across the courtroom. There was no apology in her eyes. Just the bitter, venomous glare of a predator who had been caught in her own trap. I stared right back, completely unfazed, and gave her a small, tight, Midwestern smile. The divorce was swift and brutal. With a felony conviction against his mother and evidence of his verbal abuse and gaslighting, the judge awarded me the house, my full savings, and a hefty settlement. Brad tried to fight it, but he was drowning in his mother's legal fees. Last I heard, he had moved into a shitty one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, estranged from the friends who couldn't stomach his family's scandal. As for me, it took time to heal. My gastroenterologist put me on a strict regimen of probiotics and restorative therapies to undo the damage Brenda had wrought on my mucosal lining. I told my boss everything. The company was horrified and instantly forgave my attendance issues, even giving me a medical leave of absence to recover. 6 months later, I hosted a dinner party for my closest friends at my house. I cooked a massive feast. Slow-roasted brisket, garlic potatoes, fresh green beans, and homemade bread. The house smelled like heaven. I sat at the head of the table, listening to the laughter of my friends, sipping a glass of expensive red wine. I took a large, confident bite of my food. It tasted perfect. 2 hours later, we were still at the table, talking and laughing. No cramps. No cold sweats. No agonizing sprints to the bathroom. Just the warmth of good food, good company, and a perfectly healthy gut. I had survived the poison. And I had watched the poisoners choke on their own medicine.